need to prove to the world that we still got a pulse.
Escape you from here, you're wasting your time.
We're doing this. I don't know how yet, but it's happening.
Hello and welcome to Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and today I'll be chatting to Stephen Burke, the writer and director of Maze. Before we get into the talk of the film, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the prep for this. So I heard I read online there was a bumpy funding process.
Yeah.
How did you guys get the money in the end?
Well, the film board were very supportive from the start, and then we had the BAI and Section 481, and we had a bit of funding that fell out, and most of us involved in the film at that stage thought that was the end. It wasn't going to happen because it was a significant chunk of money.
Development hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jane Doolan, the producer, she produced it along with Brendan Byrne. She refused to give up, and she said, well, no, we're making this and I'm going to get the money. And we didn't really believe her. We just supported her as she went about it, and she replaced the money in about 5 weeks from when we lost it to when she got it back. It was pretty amazing.
Pulling it out of the bag.
Yeah. And she got it from Film Vast in Sweden. So the intention at that stage was to shoot 4 weeks in Sweden and 5 weeks in Ireland. And we were about 1.8, 1.9 million, and we were going to build the best set that we could with that amount of money, which it definitely wasn't enough to build the Maze prison. And then just about 2-3 months before we were to shoot, we heard that Cork prison was closing down. The old prison was going to be completely empty, and they had built a new prison right beside it. So we called them and asked, couldn't we film our movie in your empty prison? And they didn't know what they were going to do with the building at the time, so they were delighted to have us. And we went down hoping that what we would find in the interior would match the Maze prison, and it really did. It took a fair amount of work to get it into the right shape, but it had 2 wings connected by a central locked area, and that was just
That's so
amazing.
Yeah.
It's 3 stories high, and it has a open skylight on the ground floor. So when we went in, you could see all the way to the sky, 3 stories up. And the Maze is all 1 story, so we just had to block the roof and put skylights in.
Brilliant. God, that's so lucky.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, and it's handy as well for somewhere so close. Like, it's just that little bit less travel for people.
Yeah.
To go over than to go to Sweden. And Sweden can be kind of dear.
Sweden is dear. We still shot in Sweden. We built the interior cell and the warders' storeroom. We shot all of those scenes in there. So there's some scenes where the actors are in 2 countries in the same scene. Like, they'd be walking down the corridor in Cork, and they'd enter the cell in Sweden and look out the cell door into Cork again.
That's brilliant.
It's pretty seamless. The art department, we had an art director in Sweden, and our production designer in Cork is Owen Parr. He's a native of Cork, and they spent a lot of time, an obsessive amount of time, matching the colour of what they'd done in Cork with what they did with the set in Sweden. And we even brought over some of the materials from the Cork set to Sweden.
The production design was gorgeous. Like, it just worked so well. Everything felt really natural. Also, I love their jumpers, and there's some brilliant moustaches as well. Like the 80s was a good time for fancy jumpers and moustaches. Yeah. There's
a man called Lawrence McKeown who was in the Maze himself, and lots of people in the Irish film industry would know him. He used to run the West Belfast Film Festival, and now he's on the board of the Belfast Film Festival. And from his time in the Maze, there's photos on the internet that they took secretly, and we got all the clothes from those photos. There's photos of the prisoners out in the yard, and it was, I think, 1982, so it was 1 year before. So, and we were relieved that all the long hair was gone, that we didn't have to do wigs or look for extras with long hair. So everybody had kind of normal haircuts, and one of the photos is the prisoners playing football, and one of the prisoners is in full 1980s Liverpool kit.
I'd say it had some crack as well, getting all that together and getting the look for that. So with regards casting, so again, I just want to say the performances were brilliant. Like they're just top-notch actors anyway, but it was just excellent chemistry there across the board. How did everyone get involved? What was the casting process?
Well, the very first person to become involved was Tom Vaughan Lawler. Obviously was a fan of his from Love Hate. And this isn't why we cast him, but he bears an uncanny resemblance to the real Larry Marley. They have quite a similar look. So we offered him the script. We didn't audition him. We just offered it, and he really liked it. And that was about over 2 years before we went into production. So I had to tell him a couple of times that we weren't shooting because of funding delays. And he fair play, he stayed on board all the way through that.
And how did he do the accent?
We gave him a videotape of the real Larry Marley being interviewed, ironically, by a Swedish TV camera crew after his release from prison. So he based his accent on that, even though and he worked with Brendan Gunn as well, who's well-known dialogue coach. But we had to tone down the real Larry Marley's accent a little bit because it was such a strong Belfast
subtitles.
Yeah. And also we had some Belfast actors on set. We had Martin McCann and Paddy Buchanan. So if any of the Dublin, we had a mix of Dublin and Cork actors, and if any of them had a problem with a word, the accent, they'd go to one of the Belfast actors and say, how do you say this?
Yeah, handy.
Yep.
And cheaper. You cut down one person.
Yep.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Tom, since we screened in Belfast last night, and Tom has been complimented on his accent. So
it's brilliant. It's really good because after watching Love Hate, I remember seeing him interviewed, and I was surprised by how well spoken, how kind of proper his accent sounds. So he can definitely master that.
Yep.
And how did everyone else get in?
But we were a fan of Barry Ward. He had been in our company Mammoth Films. He was in an Irish Italian co-production that we did, La Cabadora, and he speaks Italian in that. He plays a foreign doctor, so he doesn't have to speak Italian perfectly. But Italians were saying that he was the most understandable actor in the movie. So we were big fans of his. We offered it to him, and he accepted. His accent is terrific as well. I think of all the actors, he was the one who's, he's from Dublin. He's playing a unionist prison warder in The Maze, and that was really like way out of his comfort zone. I don't think he had any reference for that in his own life. So he did a really great job. Yeah,
stellar as well. And Martin, I suppose, a good choice. He was so kind of big in it as well.
Yeah, he's looks so different now. I met him in Galway, and he looks like 10 years younger than what he did. He put on a bit of weight
first. Is it like because he looked very kind of sturdy?
I think because it was a prison movie with a lot of young guys. They were all pumping iron before they came down. Even Barry as well, because he's not the most bulky up top, and he wanted to be a physical warder, so he expanded his chest a bit for the role.
And when everyone was on board, what kind of work do you do with the actors in pre-production?
I just talked to them about their characters. We did very little rehearsal. We did about like a day's rehearsal, and it was such a fast shoot because we were doing a lot of big scenes with a lot of people, and we only had 25 days to do it. So really, I was counting on the fact that the guys would have come on set prepared, because if there was any problems, it was going to cause time delays for us, you know. And luckily they were a really professional bunch.
Yeah, because there is. I was saying that there's just such a good chemistry between everyone in that, and it's like I was expecting. Oh, we had like weeks of rehearsal, and everyone got together, and no, I suppose they're all fantastic.
They're a really talented bunch, and you know, I think a lot of them are going places. Aaron Monaghan is getting great reviews for his theatre work, and he's in other movies now. He's in the new Jackie Chan movie, and Tom, apart from Tom was known for Love Hate and his theatre work at the time that we cast him, but now he's in Marvel Infinity War, so he's really on a stellar path. And Barry has a new series for Sky Atlantic coming out towards the end of this year, Britannia, which is set in the Roman invasion of Britain.
Brilliant. So this is like the usual suspects just before everyone takes off.
Exactly.
And you'd be like, oh, I remember they were in my film.
Exactly. And Martin McCann, he does lead roles all the time.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
What was the on-set experience like? So you were saying it was between there and Sweden and 25 days?
25 days, yeah. So 20 days in Cork. We had a lot of big scenes to do and big fight scenes, and the guys really got on well together, and we had a fantastic bunch of Cork extras. Like sometimes with professional extras, you're trying to get them enthusiastic, but the Cork guys, it was the opposite. We were trying to hold them back because there's a fight scene between the two groups on the wing, and they just wanted to go for it each time. And you know, we'd like have our lead actors in the middle there, and we're trying to keep everybody safe. So we had stuntmen in amongst them, trying to keep everything calm, and luckily nobody was injured on the whole film, which was
brilliant.
A relief.
Yes, I was going to say everything was very lucky. So you did
and,
well.
And they'd get really angry with each other when they're going at each other, and the faces would be young, they'd be shouting and cursing at each other, and then when we called cut, they'd all just burst out laughing.
That's like there was a nice atmosphere on set.
Yes, really good.
Yeah,
really good. And we were based in the prison the whole time. We had actually the whole prison site, so we didn't just have the wing. We had the art department had its own building. We had the caterers had the kitchen equipment for the prison officers' meals. It was fantastic.
That's great. So it was like a little village then when you were shooting.
It was like a mini film studio. Brilliant. All to ourselves. I hope it stays open as available to film. The other films have shot there since we were there. Michael Inside, which got great reviews out of Galway, and I think a couple of others have been there. The last I heard, the prison service are not allowing films in because it's a drain on their resources. But I hope that changes.
Yeah, that's it. Like you always need places. Sure, wasn't it Kilmainham? Loads of things were shot there as well.
Yes, and people use Crumlin Road in Belfast. Startup was shot in Crumlin Road, but it didn't suit our purposes because it's Victorian, and we needed.
I remember that from the tour. It's very frightening when you're walking around at actually that building.
Yeah. They
So,
did some Love Hate there as well, I think.
Oh.
When Nige is locked up.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, so and then the shoot. So coming from a camera background as well, the aesthetic and are you ever tempted to micromanage? If that's your background, you'd be like, oh, I could do that better.
No. Well, I think every director, talks through everything with their director of photography. We had a great director of photography, Dave Grennan. I'd worked with him before when he was a focus puller, and this is the first time we'd worked together in this way. But we made the decision that we wanted everything handheld, and it was aesthetic decision and also a budgetary decision because because we're so much big action scenes and so many characters. I wanted 2 cameras the whole time. So to put the financial resources into 2 cameras and 2 camera crews, we then couldn't afford tracks or dollies or Steadicam. So it was funny because we were $2 million budget and we were tracking with a wheelchair, and handheld the whole time.
How much would change then in the edit? Did you have to cut anything, kill any darlings?
Yeah, it was quite a long editing process, particularly because it was a dual perspective from a prisoner's point of view and a warder's point of view. That creates structural issues because when you don't have a single focus, if you keep going in different directions, you can lose your audience.
Yeah.
So it was a similar process with the script as it was in the edit process, that Larry, Marley and the warder are separate at the start, and then after a while we try to make them go on the same journey, so in a way it's their perspectives are linked after a certain point.
Yeah. Is it hard to stay objective when you're editing it? Because you're so close to the source material, then you're kind of remembering the shoots. How do you keep objective while you're sitting in the cutting room?
I think it's natural in the first phase to edit to a point where you have the best version, particularly as a writer-director. You edit to a point where you have the best version of the script that you wrote, which is not necessarily the end point. And then you have to look at it again and go, okay, is there more in this? We did a test screening to just a random public audience, and that was very interesting because I won't say what it was, but there was something that nobody liked, or it was the one of the questions was, what's the thing you liked least? And it was a thing that was causing me real problems in editing, and it was just a scene that was slowing everything down, and we moved it here and we moved it there and we were moving it everywhere, and then the audience just wrote, we don't like that, so I just took it.
And now looking back on it, were you like, oh, I did like it, or are you?
No, it was a great relief. It stayed in because we felt that it was essential to the story, that the story wouldn't be understood if it wasn't in, and then nobody liked it, so we took it out, and it was a huge problem solver.
What's the story with the music and the scoring? How did that happen?
We asked Stephen Rennicks. He's done nearly everything that I've directed, and he really responded to the material. He liked it, and he became involved very early on, and he had seen it from rough cut stage. So he's quite an artist in his own right. So you talk to Stephen about what you want, and then you might get something completely different. But so there's a bit of back and forth there, but in the end, I think he's been brilliant.
And if money was no object whatsoever, and someone gave you a blank check and said, "Oh, you can go back and you can do this if you want to do any reshoots," is there anything you would have changed?
I would have loved maybe another fortnight shooting. We like the escape scene. We did most of that in a day. It was just crazy, and all the prisoners and the warders they had to run and fight, and there's so much going on in that scene that we had to shoot it from 50, 60 angles, so that they had to repeat the whole action for a whole day, and they were just falling over tired at the end of the day, and we all, the whole crew, gave them a round of applause. But I think it's very good. It has great energy, and maybe the fact that we had to do it in a day gives it a different kind of dynamic. Part of me would like to spend a week on it, but maybe it wouldn't be better. Who knows? That's
it. Sometimes you can kind of do something to death. I was just I had said to Stephen, and Stephen had we both agreed that actually was really good. The way sometimes if a film is working up to a point that it's working up to, and then it's almost like a letdown, but it was really tense. I actually caught myself in the cinema realizing that I was just like really constricted, and I was like biting my nails because I was so tense, and I kind of laughed at myself then when I kind of caught myself doing that, because I just was just like a ball of tension.
People were saying, people who are close to some of those events were saying after the Belfast screening, like, that everybody knows, we all knew sitting there, that they get out in the end, or half of them get out, but we had edited it in such a way that they were all on the edge of their seat, going, "Are they really going to get it?" Of course.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable, but yeah, it's very, very tense. And is it great watching it with people now? The audience reactions, and how's that been?
Yeah, it was really good in Galway. That was my first time watching the completed film with a public audience, and it was really gratifying. You know, there's a few jokes in it, and people were laughing at the jokes, and some moments where you could feel the tension among the audience. You know, they're excited and about what's going to happen next. In Galway, there was 2 men there who had been on the escape, and one of them said that it was flawless. He thought it was flawless. He only had one objection, that we had called it Maze, which he said was the British name for the prison, and the prisoners called it Kesh, and we should have called the film Kesh. So that was good. That was his only objection.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's great.
And it was not an invited audience in Belfast last night, so we didn't really know who was going to turn up. And it went down really well, got a very enthusiastic response. And a young guy came up to me, I'd say he was late 20s, and he said, I'm from a unionist background. Obviously, he was born after all this time. And he said, I was in 2 minds whether to come tonight, because I didn't know how my community would be treated in this movie. And he said he really connected with it, really enjoyed it, and he even said that he understood a bit more about where Larry Marley was coming from.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said for me to say that, he said you might not understand it, but for me to say that is huge.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I suppose that's it. That's what you want your work to do is share like a truth for people and for people really to get it. So that's amazing. And I will say that it's a very fair film. You don't, like, there are no good guys, there are no bad guys. You understand, like, even across the board, I think it's very easy kind of for people to villainize, you know, like certain characters, and you really, so that's
we tried not to be
in everyone.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the approach we took, that the two characters would reach a stage where they see the humanity in each other, and also we tried not to be judgmental and to be fair and to be balanced, but this approach was not just to be fair and balanced. I just thought that it would make a much more interesting film to have these different perspectives colliding and merging in the film. And
with the guards and the way that the whole system is set up, you see how everything, you know, is the pressure that they're under and the restrictions that they're facing as well. It shows the systematic problems that were there in a way, without kind of leaning into it so much that it's boring or anything like that. It's just touched upon, and you get a good understanding of it. Yeah, it's a real high pressure job. I think it has in Northern Ireland it had a higher suicide rate than in other parts. Barry, in his research, he studied reports on warders in America, in the prison system in America, and the pressures they were under, and it was even more high pressure in Northern Ireland because at the time of 1983, 18 of them had been killed by Republicans on the outside. Yep, we read the Hennessy report. The British government commissioned a high-level inquiry straight after the escape. So the inquiry started, I think, within weeks of the escape. And the inquiry spoke to prisoners who were willing to talk to them, and they also spoke to warders. And it's a lengthy report, and they generally blamed the prison staff for the escape. And so we read that, and we also read what the prison staff had to say about the Hennessy report, and they blamed the political interference in the running of the prison for the escape. So we took that into account, and I think that comes across. Yeah, like my thing is, I would watch their dynamic all day. The War Giant Larry. And would you ever think of like doing something, and I know you have done television stuff before, something kind of more long form? Like I know you could probably fictionalize it and change the settings.
A series?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it'd be really interesting. It's just this weird dynamic there, and it's such an interesting... Well, I would definitely watch that anyway. I'd watch the pair of them all day, even just make each other cups of tea, because just the tension is there and that chemistry. But would you be interested in doing any series or longer form versions of those type of stories?
Yeah, I'm definitely not the Maze Escape again, but definitely the TV at the moment. You know, TV is king for drama, and in many ways, film has taken on a second level, and everybody's watching Game of Thrones and The Crown, and the TV has changed so much. You know, when I was younger, people were attracted to film because it had better characters. You know, the TV didn't have the character development that film did, and now I think that's dynamic has certainly changed. So I'm interested in getting into TV again as a writer.
You've done your series as well.
Yeah, I didn't write that. I have directed a series for TV, and I did a TV movie, and I've written as a staff writer for TV. But my novel, which is just out, my second novel, The Reluctant Contact.
Where can people buy this?
They can buy it in all good bookshops.
Yes.
It's only out a week now. We've already had a offer for the TV series rights, so it's early days, but fingers crossed on that.
Would you be tempted to do that yourself, though?
If I was asked to do it, I would definitely consider it. But I like the idea of giving it to them and letting them make it while I do other things, so I can spread myself around. Brilliant!
Get all your stories out there.
Yep.
That's very interesting. Okay, well, thank you for talking to us.
Pleasure.
It was an amazing film.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.